The dog jumped on the girl in the coffin. Everyone was shocked to discover why. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Lucy opened her eyes. With a deep sigh, she got out of bed, feeling the familiar mix of excitement and anxiety that accompanied each new day. At 25, Lucy had learned to live with the epilepsy that had been with her since adolescence, but the fear of an unexpected seizure never completely left her. She went to the window and opened the curtains, letting the golden morning light flood her small room. Outside, the trees of the nearby forest swayed gently in the morning breeze, as if inviting her to come out. Lucy smiled. She knew that there, among the trails and nature, she would find the peace she so needed. As she dressed in comfortable clothes and prepared her backpack for the hike, Lucy mentally went over her routine. Take her medication, bring enough water, inform her mother about the route she planned to follow. These were necessary precautions, but they still reminded her of her condition. Today will be a good day, she told herself, looking in the mirror. Her green eyes, inherited from her grandmother, shone with determination. She tied her long brown hair back in a ponytail and, with one last look at her reflection, left the room. In the kitchen, her mother, Ellen, was already preparing breakfast. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm pancakes filled the air. "Good morning, sweetheart," Ellen greeted, turning to kiss her daughter's cheek. "Ready for your hike?" Lucy nodded, sitting down at the table. "Yes, Mom. I want to explore the creek trail today. They say the wildflowers are beautiful this season." Ellen served breakfast, her face a mix of pride and concern. "You know it makes me nervous when you go alone, Lucy. Have you thought about joining a hiking group?" Lucy took a sip of coffee, savoring the warmth and comforting flavor. "I know, Mom, but I need this time alone. It helps me focus, to feel normal." Ellen sighed, but smiled with understanding. "I understand, sweetie. Just promise me you'll be careful. And don't forget to wear your medical ID bracelet." "I never forget it," Lucy replied, instinctively touching the bracelet on her left wrist. It was a constant reminder of her condition, but also a safety measure that allowed her to venture out alone. After breakfast, Lucy said goodbye to her mother with a hug and left the house. The fresh morning air greeted her, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. She breathed deeply, feeling the tension begin to leave her body. The path to the forest was familiar, each step taking her further from the city and closer to her refuge. Houses gave way to increasingly tall trees, and the noise of traffic was replaced by birdsong and the soft rustle of leaves swaying in the wind. Upon reaching the trailhead, Lucy paused a moment to orient herself. The path wound into the forest, snaking between ancient trees and moss-covered rocks. In the distance, she could hear the faint sound of the creek, her final destination. With firm steps, she began her hike. The trail was narrow and sometimes challenging, but Lucy traversed it with the grace of someone who knows and loves every corner of the forest. Her eyes caught the small details: a spider weaving its web between low branches, a group of mushrooms growing at the base of a fallen tree, the tracks of a small animal in the mud. As she walked, Lucy reflected on her life. She remembered the day she had her first epileptic seizure, at 15 in the middle of a physical education class. The fear and confusion of that moment could still make her shudder. The following years had been a whirlwind of doctors, medications, and adaptations. She had to give up many dreams and readjust her expectations. But here, in the forest, Lucy felt free. Nature didn't judge, didn't impose limitations. Every tree, every flower, every stone accepted her as she was. In this environment, her epilepsy seemed insignificant compared to the grandeur and beauty that surrounded her. After an hour of hiking, Lucy reached a small clearing by the creek. The crystal-clear water flowed over the rocks, creating a relaxing melody. She sat on a flat rock, took out her water bottle and took a long drink. She closed her eyes, letting the sounds and smells of the forest envelop her. It was then that she heard it, a faint whimper, barely audible over the murmur of the water. Lucy opened her eyes, alert. The sound repeated, this time a little louder. It came from some nearby bushes. Cautiously, Lucy approached. She gently parted the branches, and her heart clenched at what she saw. A small puppy, dirty and shaking, looked at her with frightened eyes. It was clearly alone and disoriented. "Hello, little one," Lucy whispered, slowly extending her hand. The puppy backed away at first, but then, as if sensing there was nothing to fear, approached and sniffed her fingers. Lucy examined the animal. It didn't seem to be hurt, but it was clear that it had been alone in the forest for days. "How did you get here?" she murmured, gently stroking its head. The puppy responded with a slight wag of its tail. Without thinking twice, Lucy made a decision. She couldn't leave it there, alone and vulnerable. Carefully, she picked up the puppy and cradled it in her arms. "Come on, little one," she said tenderly. "I'll take you home." As she set off back down the trail with the puppy safe in her arms, Lucy felt an immediate connection with the animal. Perhaps it was because they both knew vulnerability, the feeling of being at the mercy of forces beyond their control. Or maybe it was simply the protective instinct that awakened in her. The return trail seemed shorter. Lucy walked with renewed energy, talking softly to the puppy which had relaxed in her arms. "Don't worry," she told it. "We're going to take care of you." When they reached the edge of the forest, Lucy paused for a moment. She looked back at the green immensity she loved so much, and then at the small being that now depended on her. She smiled, feeling that something important had changed in her life. "Welcome to your new life, little one," she whispered to the puppy as they entered the city. The animal looked at her with its brown eyes, full of trust. Lucy didn't know it yet, but that chance encounter in the forest was about to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The afternoon sun bathed the streets of the small town as Lucy arrived home, with the puppy still curled up in her arms. Her heart was beating with a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she opened the door. "Mom!" she called, entering the living room. "I need you to see something." Ellen came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Her eyes widened when she saw the small animal. "Lucy, what?" "I found him in the forest, Mom," Lucy explained hurriedly. "He was alone, abandoned. I couldn't leave him there." Ellen approached, examining the puppy with a mixture of concern and tenderness. "Poor little thing," she murmured, gently stroking its head. "He's so skinny." Lucy felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew her mother well. That caress meant the puppy could stay, at least for now. "Let's bathe him and feed him," Ellen said, heading to the bathroom. "Then we'll see what to do." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. They bathed the puppy, discovering a soft golden coat under the dirt. He was smaller than Lucy had initially thought, probably no more than 2 months old. While Ellen prepared a mixture of warm milk and soft white rice for the hungry animal, Lucy sat on the couch, holding the puppy wrapped in a towel. She looked at him intently, feeling a connection she couldn't explain. "What should I call you?" she murmured, gently scratching behind the animal's ears. The puppy looked at her with his big brown eyes, full of trust and affection. At that moment, Lucy knew she couldn't part with him. "Sonny," she said finally. "I'll call you Sonny, because you're like a ray of light in my life." The puppy, as if understanding, licked her hand enthusiastically. Ellen returned with a plate of food and observed the scene with a mixture of tenderness and concern. "Lucy, honey," she said softly, "you know we can't keep him, right? We have to find his owners or take him to a shelter." Lucy felt her heart sink. "I know, Mom," she replied, though deep down she wished there was another solution. "But we can take care of him in the meantime, right? Just until we find a good home for him." Ellen sighed but nodded. "All right. But tomorrow we'll go to the vet to have him checked and see if he's microchipped. If he has owners, we have to return him." Lucy nodded, grateful for the opportunity to care for Sonny, even if only for a short time. The following days were a whirlwind of new experiences. The vet confirmed that Sonny was healthy, though a bit undernourished, and that he had no microchip. Lucy dedicated herself body and soul to caring for the puppy, feeding him, playing with him, and teaching him the basic house rules. To her surprise, Sonny proved to be an incredibly intuitive companion. He seemed to sense when Lucy was tense or worried, and in those moments he would curl up next to her, offering silent but effective comfort. One afternoon, while they were playing in the backyard, Lucy felt the familiar aura that preceded an epileptic seizure. Fear invaded her, but before she could call her mother, Sonny began barking insistently, running towards the house. Ellen came running out, alarmed by the barking, and found Lucy sitting on the grass, pale and shaking. Thanks to Sonny's warning, she was able to help her daughter lie on her side before the seizure began. When Lucy regained consciousness, the first thing she felt was the warmth of Sonny curled up beside her, gently licking her hand. At that moment, she knew she had found more than a pet. She had found a protector, a friend. "It's incredible," Ellen commented later, as Lucy rested on the couch with Sunny at her feet. "It's as if he knows exactly what you need." Lucy smiled, stroking Sunny's soft fur. "He's special, Mom. I can't explain it, but I feel like we were meant to find each other." As the days passed, the connection between Lucy and Sunny strengthened. The puppy seemed synchronized with Lucy's moods and needs. When she felt anxious, Sunny would curl up in her lap, offering a calming presence. When she was happy, the puppy was bursting with energy, inviting her to play. Lucy discovered that her walks in the forest were even more rewarding with Sunny by her side. The puppy ran along the trails, curiously sniffing every tree and bush, but always mindful of Lucy, never straying too far. One morning, as they walked along her favorite trail, Lucy stopped in a clearing, breathing deeply the fresh forest air. Sunny sat beside her, looking at her with eyes full of adoration. "You know, Sunny," Lucy said, stroking the puppy's head, "before I found you, I sometimes felt very alone, even here in the forest I love so much. I was afraid that my epilepsy would isolate me from the world, from people, but you've shown me that I can be loved and cared for exactly as I am." Sunny barked softly, as if understanding every word. Lucy bent down to hug him, feeling a wave of gratitude and affection. However, despite the happiness Sunny had brought to her life, Lucy couldn't ignore reality. She knew that eventually she would have to find a permanent home for the puppy. The idea of parting with him hurt deeply, but she knew it was the right thing to do. One afternoon, while browsing the internet for information on puppy care, Lucy stumbled upon the website of a local animal shelter. The photos of dogs and cats looking for homes tugged at her heart. Almost without thinking, she clicked on the volunteer section. Maybe, she thought, if I can't keep Sunny, at least I can help other animals like him. That night, during dinner, Lucy told her mother about the shelter. "I'm thinking of volunteering," she said. "I think it would be good for me, and maybe they can help us find a good home for Sunny." Ellen looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. "Are you sure, honey? I know how much you love Sunny." Lucy looked at the puppy, who was peacefully napping in his bed in a corner of the kitchen. "I do love him, Mom, more than I can explain, but I know we can't keep him forever. He deserves a family that can give him everything he needs." Ellen got up and hugged her daughter. "You're very brave, my love, and very generous. I'm proud of you." That night, lying in her bed with Sunny curled up at her feet, Lucy reflected on the changes that had occurred in her life since she found the puppy. She felt stronger, more confident. Sunny had shown her that she was capable of caring for another being, of being responsible and brave. "No matter what happens," she whispered, gently stroking Sunny, "you'll always be my ray of sunshine, my faithful friend." With that promise in her heart, Lucy fell asleep, dreaming of new adventures and the possibility of making a difference in the lives of other animals in need. The future, for the first time in a long time, looked bright and full of hope. The Happy Paws Animal Shelter was a modest building on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees and a large fenced yard. Lucy paused in front of the entrance, taking a deep breath to calm her nerves. It was her first day as a volunteer, and although she was excited, she couldn't help feeling a bit anxious. "Come on, Lucy," she told herself. "You can do this." With determination, she pushed the door and entered. The interior was cozy and bright, with walls decorated with photos of adopted animals and their new families. The sound of barking and meowing filled the air, mixing with the bustle of volunteers and staff. "Welcome to Happy Paws," a warm voice greeted her. Lucy turned to see a man in his 30s approaching with a kind smile. He had messy, dark hair and brown eyes that sparkled with enthusiasm. "You must be Lucy. I'm Mike, the volunteer coordinator." Lucy returned his smile, feeling her nervousness diminish a little. "Nice to meet you, Mike. I'm excited to start." Mike guided her through the facilities, explaining the different areas and responsibilities. Lucy listened attentively, fascinated by the dedication and affection with which he spoke about the animals. "And here we have our most recent residents," Mike said, opening the door to a room full of cages. Inside, several puppies and kittens greeted them with excited barks and meows. Lucy felt her heart melt at the sight. She approached one of the cages, where a small black kitten was looking at her curiously. "They're adorable," she murmured, extending her hand for the kitten to smell. Mike nodded. "They are, and they all need a lot of love and care. Do you think you can handle it?" Lucy straightened up, looking at Mike with determination. Absolutely, I'm ready to help in whatever way necessary. The next few weeks flew by. Lucy immersed herself in her work as a volunteer, dedicating every free moment she had to the shelter. She fed the animals, cleaned the cages, played with the puppies and kittens, and helped at adoption events. To her surprise, she discovered that her epilepsy, which had always been a source of anxiety and limitations, was not an obstacle at the shelter. Mike and the other volunteers were understanding and welcoming, making sure she always had support when she needed it. One day, while Lucy was cleaning one of the play areas, she felt the familiar aura that preceded a seizure. Before she could panic, Mike was by her side, gently guiding her to a safe place. "It's okay, Lucy," he said in a calm voice. "I'm here. Take a deep breath. Everything will be fine." When the seizure passed, Lucy found herself lying on the couch in the break room, with Mike sitting beside her, holding her hand. "Thank you," she murmured, feeling grateful and a little embarrassed. Mike smiled at her warmly. "There's nothing to thank me for. We're a team here, remember? We take care of each other, just like we take care of the animals." That moment marked a turning point in Lucy and Mike's relationship. As they spent more time together at the shelter, they began to share their stories, their dreams, and their fears. Lucy told him about Sunny, the puppy she had found in the forest that had changed her life. She talked about her love for nature, how walks in the forest helped her feel at peace with herself. Mike, for his part, shared his own story. He told her how he had left a promising career in finance to dedicate himself to animal care, following his true passion. "Sometimes life takes us on unexpected paths," he told her one afternoon, as they walked a group of dogs around the shelter's yard. "But I believe that if we follow our heart, we always end up where we're meant to be." Lucy nodded, thoughtful. "I know what you mean. There was a time when I thought my epilepsy would define my whole life, but now here, I feel like I can be more than my condition. I can make a difference." Mike looked at her with admiration. "You're already making a difference, Lucy. You have no idea how much you've contributed to the shelter in such a short time." As days turned into weeks, Lucy realized that her feelings for Mike were changing. He was no longer just the kind volunteer coordinator. He had become someone special, someone she trusted and felt completely at ease with. One afternoon, as they were closing the shelter after a successful adoption event, Mike approached Lucy with a nervous expression. "Lucy," he began, running a hand through his hair, "I was wondering if you'd like to go for coffee with me. Outside the shelter, I mean. Like a date." Lucy felt her heart skip a beat. A smile spread across her face. "I'd love to, Mike." The first date was at a small cafe in the city center. They talked for hours, laughing and sharing stories. Lucy was surprised at how easy it was to be with Mike, how natural it felt. As their relationship developed, Lucy found herself facing new challenges and emotions. On one hand, she was excited and happy about this new connection in her life. On the other, she couldn't help feeling afraid. What if her epilepsy got in the way? What if Mike decided it was too complicated to be with someone with her condition? But Mike proved time and time again that her fears were unfounded. He accepted her as she was, epilepsy and all. He even took the time to learn about the condition, researching how he could best help in case of a seizure. One day, as they were walking through the city park, Lucy decided it was time to introduce him to Sunny. "I'd love to meet him," Mike said enthusiastically. "After all, it's thanks to him that you ended up at the shelter and we met." When they arrived at Lucy's house, Sunny greeted them with excited barks. To Lucy's surprise and joy, the dog and Mike got along wonderfully from the first moment. "It's incredible," Mike commented as he played with Sunny in the garden. "You can tell he has a special bond with you. It's as if he can sense when you need him." Lucy nodded, lovingly observing the two beings who had become so important in her life. "Yes, he's special. He's helped me a lot with my epilepsy. Sometimes I think it was fate that put him in my path." Mike approached her, taking her hand. "Maybe it was fate that put us all on the right path. You, Sunny, me." Lucy felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time in a long time, she felt completely at peace, completely accepted. With Sunny at her feet and Mike by her side, she knew she could face any challenge that life presented her. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lucy reflected on the unexpected turns her life had taken. From feeling limited by her epilepsy, she had become a vital part of the shelter. She had found a faithful companion in Sunny, and unexpected love in Mike. Life is an adventure, she thought, stroking Sunny, who was sleeping peacefully beside her. And I'm ready to live it fully. With a smile on her lips, Lucy fell asleep, dreaming of the new horizons opening up before her. The future, which once had seemed uncertain and frightening, now shone with infinite possibilities. Months flew by for Lucy. Her life had found a new rhythm full of purpose and joy. She dedicated her mornings to walks in the forest with Sunny, her afternoons to the Happy Paws shelter, and her evenings. Her evenings were for Mike. Her relationship with Mike had blossomed into something beautiful and deep. Together, they had created a world where Lucy's epilepsy wasn't an obstacle, but just another part of their love story. However, as their relationship strengthened, Lucy faced a difficult decision: Sunny's future. One afternoon, as they walked through the park after a long day at the shelter, Mike broached the subject. "Lucy," he began, his voice soft but serious, "have you considered officially adopting Sunny?" Lucy stopped, surprised by the question. I don't know," she answered honestly. "I love him, Mike. He's such an important part of my life, but I've always thought that eventually I'd have to find him a permanent home." Mike looked at her tenderly. "But what if his permanent home was with you? It's clear you have a special bond, and you've proven to be a wonderful owner." Lucy felt her heart racing. The idea of keeping Sunny forever filled her with joy, but also with fear. "What if I can't take care of him like he deserves?" she whispered, expressing her greatest fear. "What if my epilepsy gets worse and I can't—" Mike gently interrupted her, taking her hands in his. "Lucy, look at me. You've been taking care of Sunny all this time, and you've done an incredible job. Your epilepsy doesn't define you or limit your ability to love and care." Mike's words resonated deeply with Lucy. He was right. For months, she had cared for Sunny, loved him, and her condition had never been an impediment. "You're right," she finally said, a smile lighting up her face. "I want to adopt him. I want Sunny to officially be part of my family." The decision to adopt Sunny marked a turning point in Lucy's life. It was a commitment, a promise of long-term love and care. And with that decision, she felt that another part of her, one that had been dormant for a long time, began to awaken. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Lucy and Mike immersed themselves in the preparations for Sunny's official adoption. There was paperwork to complete, a home visit to pass, and of course, a small celebration to plan. The day of the official adoption arrived with a beautiful dawn. Lucy woke up early, her heart full of excitement. Sunny, as if sensing the importance of the day, was especially affectionate, showering Lucy with kisses as she got ready. At the shelter, Mike greeted them with a radiant smile. "Are you ready to make this official?" he asked, holding the adoption papers. Lucy nodded, her voice full of determination. "More than ready." As she signed the papers, Lucy felt a wave of emotions. Joy, love, but also a deep sense of responsibility. She was committing to care for Sunny for the rest of his life, through good times and bad. "Congratulations," Mike said, handing her the adoption certificate. "Sunny is now, officially and legally, part of your family." Lucy hugged Sunny, who was barking happily as if he understood what was happening. "You've always been part of my family," she whispered in his ear. "Now we're just making it official." The small celebration that followed was intimate, but full of joy. Ellen, Lucy's mother, arrived with a special cake for dogs that she had baked for the occasion. The other shelter volunteers joined in, bringing gifts for Sunny and words of congratulation for Lucy. In the midst of the celebration, Lucy found herself observing the scene with a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. There was her mother, smiling and chatting with Mike. There were her friends from the shelter, people who had accepted her without reservations. And there was Sunny, her faithful companion, now officially hers. It was at that moment that Lucy had an epiphany. Her life had changed drastically in the past few months, and it had all started with one decision: the decision to help an abandoned puppy in the forest. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lucy reflected on all she had gained: love, friendship, purpose, and all because she had dared to open her heart, to take risks. "You know, Sunny," she said, gently stroking the dog who was dozing beside her, "I think it's time to take more risks in life." Sunny raised his head, looking at her curiously. "I've been thinking," Lucy continued, "maybe it's time to go back to school. I always wanted to be a veterinarian, but after my epilepsy diagnosis, I abandoned that dream. I thought it was impossible. But now I think I can try. The idea of going back to university was both exciting and terrifying. It would mean many changes, many challenges, but Lucy felt she was ready to face them. The next day, she shared her plans with Mike and her mother. Both supported her unconditionally. "I'm so proud of you, my love," Ellen said, hugging her daughter. "I always knew you were capable of great things." Mike, for his part, couldn't contain his enthusiasm. "That's wonderful, Lucy. You'll be an amazing veterinarian, and you know you have all my support." The following days were a whirlwind of research and planning. Lucy immersed herself in information about veterinary programs, admission requirements, and funding options. Each new detail she discovered filled her with excitement and determination. However, as the time to submit her application approached, old fears began to resurface. What if her epilepsy interfered with her studies? What if she wasn't strong enough to handle the stress of university? One afternoon, while walking in the forest with Sunny, Lucy found herself struggling against a wave of doubts. She sat on a fallen log, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of the decision. Sunny, sensing her distress, approached and rested his head on her lap. Lucy looked at him, finding comfort in those brown eyes full of unconditional love. "You're right, buddy," she said softly. "I can't let fear stop me. I've come too far to give up now." With renewed determination, Lucy stood up and continued her walk. As she advanced along the familiar trail, she felt that each step brought her closer to her dream. That night, sitting at her desk with Sunny sleeping at her feet, Lucy began to fill out her application for veterinary school. Each question she answered, each essay she wrote was an act of courage, a declaration of faith in herself. As she wrote about her experiences at the shelter, about her love for animals and her desire to help them, Lucy felt something within her transforming. She was no longer the scared young woman who feared that her epilepsy would define her life. She was a strong, determined woman, ready to pursue her dreams. As she finished the application, Lucy looked at the Submit button on the screen. She took a deep breath, thinking about everything that had led her to this moment. About Sunny, who had taught her about unconditional love. About Mike, who had shown her that she deserved to be loved just as she was. About her mother, who had always believed in her. With a smile on her lips and her heart full of hope, Lucy clicked Submit. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she was ready to face it. With Sunny by her side, Mike's love and her family supporting her, and her own inner strength guiding her, Lucy knew she could overcome any obstacle that came her way. The future, once so uncertain, now shone with infinite possibilities. And Lucy was ready to embrace them all. The following months passed in a whirlwind of activity for Lucy. The wait for the response from the veterinary school mixed with her daily routine at the shelter, her walks with Sunny, and her moments with Mike. Each day brought new challenges and learnings, but Lucy felt stronger than ever to face them. One sunny spring morning, as Lucy was having breakfast with her mother, the email notification tone on her phone broke the silence. With trembling hands, she opened the message. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's from the university." Ellen approached, putting a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Open it, honey. Whatever it is, we're in this together." Lucy took a deep breath and opened the email. Her eyes quickly scanned the first lines, and suddenly a smile lit up her face. "I got in," she exclaimed, tears of joy springing from her eyes. "I'm going to study veterinary medicine." Ellen wrapped her in a tight hug, her own voice breaking with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, my girl. I always knew you would do it." Sunny, sensing the excitement in the air, joined the celebration, barking happily and jumping around them. Mike was the next to find out. Lucy ran to the shelter, eager to share the news. When she told him, Mike's eyes lit up with pride and love. "I knew you'd do it," he said, hugging her tightly. "You're amazing, Lucy. You're going to be an awesome veterinarian." The news spread quickly through the shelter. The other volunteers warmly congratulated her, expressing their joy and support. Lucy felt overwhelmed by so much affection and support. However, as the initial euphoria settled, new challenges began to emerge. The university was in another city, which meant Lucy would have to move. The idea of leaving her home, the shelter, and being away from her mother and Mike filled her with anxiety. One night, While walking with Sunny in the forest, Lucy shared her concerns with Mike. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if I can't handle the stress of university? What if my epilepsy gets worse? What if—" Mike gently interrupted her, taking her hands in his. "Lucy, look at me. You've overcome so many obstacles to get here. You're stronger than you think, and you won't be alone. Your mother, me, everyone at the shelter will be supporting you every step of the way." Lucy nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "You're right. It's just that it's a big change." "Big changes are scary," Mike said, "but they also bring great opportunities. And you, my love, are ready to seize them." The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. Lucy had to find an apartment that accepted pets, as there was no way she would leave Sunny behind. She also had to organize her medical treatment in the new city, making sure she had everything necessary to manage her epilepsy. The shelter organized a farewell party for her. It was an afternoon full of laughter, tears, and promises to stay in touch. Lucy felt overwhelmed by the affection of her colleagues and gratitude for everything she had learned there. The night before her departure, Lucy sat on the porch of her house, with Sunny curled up at her feet and Mike by her side. They looked at the stars in silence, each lost in their thoughts. "I'm going to miss this," Lucy finally said. Mike hugged her, softly kissing her head. "Me too. But this isn't goodbye. It's see you later. I'll be visiting you as often as I can." Lucy smiled, grateful to have someone so understanding and loving in her life. "I love you," she whispered. "And I love you," Mike replied, "more than you can imagine." The day of departure came too soon. With the car loaded and Sunny secure in the back seat, Lucy prepared to say goodbye. The hugs with her mother and Mike were long and emotional, full of love and good wishes. "Call me when you get there," Ellen said, wiping away tears. "And remember, I'm so proud of you, my brave girl." Mike was the last to say goodbye. "Go and conquer the world," he told her, his voice full of emotion. "I know you'll do amazing." With one last hug and a kiss, Lucy got in the car. As she drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror, seeing her mother and Mike waving. She felt a mixture of sadness and excitement, of fear and anticipation. The journey to the new city was long, but Sunny proved to be an excellent co-pilot, keeping her animated with his antics and affection. When they finally arrived at their new apartment, Lucy felt exhausted but excited. "Well, Sunny," she said as she opened the door, "welcome to our new home." The first few days were challenging. Between unpacking, getting oriented in the new city, and preparing for the start of classes, Lucy barely had time to breathe. But with each passing day, she felt more confident and excited about what was to come. The first day of classes arrived before she knew it. As she walked across campus, Lucy felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. She was taking the first steps toward her dream, and although the path wouldn't be easy, she was determined to give her best. The first weeks were intense. Lucy immersed herself in her studies, fascinated by everything she was learning. Animal anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. Each class brought her closer to her goal of becoming a veterinarian. However, not everything was easy. There were late-night study sessions, moments of doubt, and occasionally the fear of an epileptic seizure. But every time she felt overwhelmed, Lucy found comfort in Sunny, in calls with her mother and Mike, and in her own determination. One afternoon, while studying in her apartment, Lucy felt the familiar aura that preceded a seizure. Calmly, she followed the steps she had practiced so many times. She sat on the floor, away from dangerous objects, and called Sunny. The dog, faithful as always, curled up next to her, providing comfort and security. When the seizure passed, Lucy found herself crying, but not out of fear or frustration as before, but out of gratitude. Gratitude for Sunny, for her inner strength, for the opportunity to be pursuing her dream despite the obstacles. That night, while video chatting with Mike, Lucy shared what had happened. "It was different this time," she explained. "I didn't feel scared or defeated. I felt strong, as if I could handle anything that came my way." Mike smiled, his eyes shining with pride. Mike smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "That's because you are strong, Lucy. You always have been. It's just that now you see it too." As the weeks passed, Lucy found her rhythm. She made new friends at the university, people who accepted her as she was, epilepsy and all. She even joined a support group for students with chronic medical conditions, finding strength and inspiration in the stories of others. One day, while walking across campus with Sunny, who had become a sort of unofficial mascot of the veterinary school, Lucy paused for a moment to reflect. She looked around at the building where she took classes, at the students passing by, at Sunny, who was looking at her with adoration. In that moment, Lucy felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. She had come a long way from that scared young woman who feared that her epilepsy would define her life. Now she was here pursuing her dream, facing her fears, and growing every day. "We're doing it, Sunny," she whispered, patting her faithful friend's head. "Step by step, day by day, we're doing it." And as she resumed her walk, Lucy felt that she was exactly where she needed to be, ready to face any challenge the future might bring. With Sunny by her side, the love of her family and Mike supporting her, and her own inner strength guiding her, she knew she could conquer any obstacle. The path to her dream was just beginning, but Lucy was ready to walk it with courage, determination, and hope. Time flew for Lucy. Before she knew it, she was in her third year of veterinary school. Days were filled with practical classes, shifts at the university clinic, and long nights of studying. Despite the stress and challenges, Lucy felt more alive than ever. One spring morning, as she walked across campus with Sunny, Lucy received a call that would change the course of her life. It was Dr. Thompson, one of her favorite professors. "Lucy," Dr. Thompson said, his voice full of enthusiasm, "I have a proposal for you. We're starting a research project on the interaction between companion animals and patients with neurological diseases. I thought of you immediately. Would you be interested in participating?" Lucy's heart skipped a beat. This was a unique opportunity, a chance to combine her passion for animals with her personal experience. "Of course, Dr. Thompson," she responded without hesitation. "I'd love to be part of this project." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Lucy immersed herself in research, reading everything she could about animal-assisted therapy and its impact on patients with epilepsy and other neurological conditions. The project took her to hospitals and rehabilitation centers, where she could observe firsthand the positive impact animals had on patients. Each visit, each interaction, reinforced her conviction that she had chosen the right path. One afternoon, while working in the lab analyzing data, Lucy had an idea. What if she could develop a specific training program for assistance dogs for people with epilepsy? A program that combined traditional service dog techniques with a special focus on early seizure detection and emotional support. Excited by the possibility, Lucy shared her idea with Dr. Thompson. The professor listened attentively, his eyes shining with interest. "It's a fascinating idea, Lucy," he said when she finished explaining, "and I think you have the unique experience to carry it out. Why don't you develop it as your thesis project?" Lucy felt her heart racing. It was a huge challenge, but also an incredible opportunity. "I'll do it," she responded with determination. That night, as she had dinner with Sunny in her small apartment, Lucy could barely contain her excitement. "What do you think, buddy?" she asked the dog, who was looking at her curiously. "Ready to help me change lives?" Sunny barked happily, as if he perfectly understood what Lucy was saying to him. The following months were intense. Between her regular classes, the research project, and the development of her thesis, Lucy barely had time to breathe. But every time she felt overwhelmed, she looked at Sunny and remembered why she was doing all this. The training program Lucy was developing was innovative. It combined dog training techniques with the latest advances in neurology and psychology. The idea was to train dogs not only to detect seizures before they happened, but also to provide constant emotional support to their owners. Lucy spent hours working with Sunny and other dogs from the veterinary program, perfecting the techniques and documenting every advance. There were moments of frustration, nights when it seemed she wasn't getting anywhere. But there were also moments of triumph, like the first time Sunny managed to alert her to an impending seizure, several minutes before it happened. As her research progressed, Lucy began to attract attention in the academic world. She was invited to present her preliminary findings at a veterinary neurology conference. The night before the conference, Lucy was extremely nervous. She paced around her apartment, going over her presentation again and again. Sunny followed her closely, sensing her anxiety. Suddenly, Lucy felt the familiar aura of a seizure approaching. "No, please," she whispered, fear taking over her. "Not now." But before she could do anything, Sonny was by her side, gently guiding her to the couch. The dog curled up next to her, his presence calming and comforting. Lucy clung to him, breathing deeply, focusing on the steady beat of Sonny's heart. To her surprise, the seizure didn't come. The aura gradually faded, leaving her exhausted but relieved. It was at that moment that Lucy realized something important. Her research wasn't just theory. She was living proof of its effectiveness. The next day, standing in front of a room full of neurologists and veterinarians, Lucy shared not only her data and findings, but also her personal story. She talked about her life with epilepsy, how Sonny had changed her life, and her vision for the future of animal-assisted therapy. The response was overwhelming. The attendees were fascinated, asking questions, sharing their own experiences. Lucy realized that she had struck a chord, that she had opened a door to new possibilities in the field. After the conference, Lucy was approached by Dr. Garcia, a renowned neurologist. "Your work is impressive, Lucy," Dr. Garcia said. "I think it could have applications beyond epilepsy. Have you considered expanding your research to other neurological conditions?" Lucy felt her heart racing. "I've thought about it, yes. I think the potential is enormous." "I agree," Dr. Garcia responded with a smile. "In fact, I'd like to propose a collaboration. We're starting a study on the impact of animal-assisted therapy on Alzheimer's patients. Your expertise would be invaluable." Lucy couldn't believe what she was hearing. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to take her research to the next level. "It would be an honor, Dr. Garcia," she responded, trying to maintain her composure. That night, back in her apartment, Lucy sat on the couch, overwhelmed by everything that had happened. Sonny curled up beside her, resting his head on her lap. "We're doing it, Sonny," she whispered, stroking the dog's ears. "We're making a difference." As she reflected on the day, Lucy couldn't help but think about how far she had come, from that scared young woman who feared that her epilepsy would define her life, to this confident woman who was breaking new ground in veterinary research. Her phone rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Mike. "Lucy!" he exclaimed as soon as she answered. "I just saw the video of your presentation. You were incredible." Lucy smiled, feeling a wave of affection for Mike. Despite the distance, he had always been her greatest support. "Thank you, Mike," she replied. "It's been an amazing day. I have so much to tell you." As she talked with Mike, sharing her emotions and plans for the future, Lucy felt deeply grateful. For Sonny, for Mike, for her mother, for all those who had supported her on her journey. But above all, she felt grateful for her own strength, for the determination that had brought her this far. She no longer saw her epilepsy as a limitation, but as a part of her that had driven her to do extraordinary things. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lucy looked out the window at the starry sky. The future stretched out before her, full of exciting possibilities. New research, new discoveries, new ways to help people and animals. With Sonny curled up at her feet and her heart full of hope, Lucy fell asleep, dreaming of the paths she had yet to travel and the lives she could change in the process. The journey that had begun with a chance encounter in the forest now led her to horizons she had never imagined, and Lucy was ready for every step of the way. Months flew by for Lucy. Her collaboration with Dr. Garcia on the study of animal-assisted therapy for Alzheimer's patients kept her busy and excited. Each day brought new challenges and discoveries, and Lucy felt more passionate than ever about her work. One autumn afternoon, as Lucy was working on her thesis in the university library, she received an unexpected call. It was Mike. "Lucy," he said, his voice full of excitement, "remember that plot of land on the outskirts of town, the one next to the forest? It's for sale." Lucy held her breath. She knew exactly which plot Mike was referring to. They had often talked about how perfect it would be to build a rehabilitation and animal-assisted therapy center there. But it had always been a distant dream, something for the future. "Mike, that's amazing, but—" Lucy hesitated. "How could we afford it?" "I've been saving," Mike replied. "And with your research gaining recognition, I think we could get support. Lucy, this could be the perfect time to make our dream a reality." Lucy's heart was racing. It was crazy, a huge risk, but it was also everything they had dreamed of. "Let's do it," she finally said, her voice full of determination. "Let's try." The following months were a whirlwind of activity. Between finishing her thesis, continuing her research, and planning the center, Lucy barely had time to breathe, but every time she felt overwhelmed, she looked at Sunny and remembered why she was doing all this. The process of acquiring the land and obtaining the necessary permits was long and complicated. There were moments of doubt, nights when Lucy wondered if they were making a mistake. But Mike was always there, supporting her, reminding her of how important her vision was. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of paperwork and negotiations, the big day arrived. Lucy and Mike were standing on their land, holding the keys to what would be their future center. "I can't believe we did it," Lucy whispered, looking at the vast green space in front of her. Mike hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I can believe it. I always knew you would do it, Lucy. You're the most determined person I know." As they watched the sunset over their land, Lucy felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready to face it. The following months were a frenzy of planning and construction. Lucy divided her time between overseeing the center project, continuing her research, and preparing for her graduation. Many nights she fell asleep over blueprints and proposals, with Sunny faithfully by her side. As the center took shape, Lucy began to recruit a team of passionate and dedicated professionals. Veterinarians, therapists, animal trainers, each team member shared Lucy's vision of a place where animals and people could heal each other. One afternoon, as Lucy was touring the construction site with the architect, discussing the final details, she felt the familiar aura of a seizure approaching. For a moment, panic overtook her. She was in the middle of an important meeting. She couldn't afford a seizure now. But then, as if sensing her distress, Sunny appeared by her side. The dog, who had accompanied her to the site that day, sat next to her, resting his head against her leg. Lucy breathed deeply, focusing on Sunny's calming presence. To her surprise and relief, the seizure didn't come. The aura gradually faded, leaving her exhausted but grateful. The architect, who had noticed the pause in their conversation, was looking at her with concern. "Is everything all right, Dr. Lucy?" he asked. Lucy smiled, patting Sunny's head. "Yes, everything's perfect," she replied. "In fact, I think we just witnessed exactly why this center is so important." That incident reinforced Lucy's determination. She was creating a place where people like her, facing health challenges, could find comfort and support in animals. Finally, after months of tireless work, the big day arrived. The New Paths Animal Assisted Therapy Center was ready to open its doors. The morning of the inauguration, Lucy woke up at dawn, too excited to sleep any longer. She dressed carefully, choosing a professional but comfortable outfit. Sunny watched her curiously, sensing the excitement in the air. "Today's the big day, buddy," Lucy told him, scratching his ears. "We're going to change lives." When Lucy arrived at the center, there was already a small crowd gathered. Journalists, local authorities, colleagues from the academic world, and most importantly, families hoping to benefit from the center's services. Mike was waiting for her at the entrance, looking handsome and nervous in his suit. "Ready?" he asked, taking her hand. Lucy nodded, squeezing his hand. "Ready." The ribbon cutting was a surreal moment. As cameras flashed and people applauded, Lucy couldn't help but think about how far she had come, from that scared young woman in the forest to this confident woman who was about to realize her dream. During the tour of the facilities, Lucy passionately explained every aspect of the center: the therapy areas, the animal training spaces, the consultation rooms. Every detail had been carefully planned to maximize the well-being of both animals and patients. "Our goal," she explained to the journalists, "is to create a space where animals and people can heal each other, where the connection between species can be a source of comfort, support, and growth." As she spoke, Lucy noticed a little girl in a wheelchair, looking in awe at Sunny, who was sitting obediently by her side. With a smile, Lucy crouched down next to the girl. "Would you like to pet him?" she asked softly. The girl nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. Carefully, Lucy guided the girl's hand to Sunny. The dog, gentle as always, stayed still, letting the girl pet him. "His name is Sunny," Lucy said, "and he's very special. Do you know why? Because he can sense when people need a friend." The girl's smile lit up the whole room. At that moment, Lucy knew that all the effort, all the sleepless nights, all the challenges she had faced had been worth it. That night, after all the guests had left and the center was quiet, Lucy stayed for a moment longer. She walked through the empty hallways, Sunny faithfully by her side, absorbing the reality of what they had created. She stopped in front of a window, looking out at the forest that stretched beyond the center. The same forest where it had all begun, where she had found Sunny, where she had rediscovered her strength. "We did it, Sunny," she whispered, tears of joy in her eyes. "We really did it." Sunny barked softly as if agreeing. Lucy bent down to hug him, feeling a wave of gratitude for everything this dog had brought into her life. As they left the center, Lucy looked back one last time. Tomorrow would be the first official day of operations, the beginning of a new adventure, of new challenges and triumphs. But for now, in this quiet moment of the night, Lucy allowed herself to simply be proud. Proud of her journey, of her strength, of her ability to turn obstacles into opportunities. With Sunny by her side and her heart full of hope, Lucy walked towards her future, ready for any challenge it might bring. Because now she knew that with love, determination, and a faithful friend by her side, there was nothing she couldn't overcome. The first months of operation of the New Paths Animal Assisted Therapy Center were a whirlwind of activity and learning for Lucy. Each day brought new challenges, but also incredible rewards. One spring morning, as Lucy was reviewing patient files in her office, she heard a commotion coming from the therapy area. She quickly went out to investigate, with Sunny following close behind. In the hallway, she encountered a chaotic scene. An autistic child who had been having difficulties connecting with the therapists was in the midst of a meltdown. His parents and the staff were trying to calm him down, without success. Lucy was about to intervene when she noticed that Sunny had stepped forward. The dog slowly approached the child, his body language completely relaxed and non-threatening. To everyone's surprise, the child stopped screaming and fixed his attention on Sunny. Carefully, Sunny lay down next to the child, offering his calming presence. Little by little, the child began to calm down, until finally he extended a trembling hand to pet Sunny's soft fur. Lucy watched the scene with amazement and emotion. It was moments like this that reaffirmed her belief in the healing power of the connection between humans and animals. "See," she said softly to the child, who was now completely calm. "Sunny is very good at making friends. Would you like to be his friend too?" The child nodded, a small smile appearing on his face for the first time since he had arrived at the center. This incident marked a turning point for the center. The news of the miraculous connection between Sunny and the autistic child spread quickly, attracting the attention of more families and health professionals. Soon, Lucy found herself expanding the center's programs to meet the growing demand. In addition to therapy for people with epilepsy, they now offered sessions for children with autism, elderly people with Alzheimer's, veterans with PTSD, and many others. However, with success also came new challenges. The center needed more staff, more trained animals, more resources. Lucy found herself working long hours, dividing her time between patient care, center management, and ongoing research. One night, as Lucy was working late in her office, Mike entered with a cup of coffee and a look of concern. "Lucy," he said softly, "don't you think you're working too hard?" Lucy looked up from her papers, noticing for the first time how late it was. "I know," she sighed. "It's just that there's so much to do, so many people who need help." Mike sat down in front of her, taking her hands in his. "I understand, love, but you need to take care of yourself too. You can't help others if you burn out." Lucy knew Mike was right. In her desire to help everyone, she had been neglecting her own well-being. Even Sunny was looking at her with concern from his bed in the corner of the office. "You're right," she finally admitted. "I need to find a better balance." In the days that followed, Lucy made an effort to delegate more responsibilities, trust her team, and establish healthier boundaries. It wasn't easy, but little by little, she began to find a more sustainable rhythm. One day, as she walked through the center during a rare moment of tranquility, Lucy stopped in front of the wall of photos they had begun to fill. Each image showed a patient with one of the center's animals, capturing moments of connection, joy, and healing. There were photos of autistic children smiling as they played with the dogs, elderly people with Alzheimer's remembering moments from their youth as they petted the cats, veterans with PTSD finding peace in the company of the horses. And in the midst of all those photos, there was one of Lucy and Sunny, taken on the day the center opened. Lucy saw herself radiant and full of hope, with Sunny faithfully by her side. At that moment, Lucy felt a deep sense of gratitude and fulfillment. Despite the challenges, despite the fatigue, they were making a real difference in people's lives. That night, during dinner with Mike, Lucy shared her reflections. "You know," she said, "sometimes I wonder if all this would have been possible if I hadn't had epilepsy. If I hadn't found Sunny in the forest that day." Mike looked at her tenderly. "I think your epilepsy gave you a unique perspective, Lucy. It showed you how important support and understanding are. And Sunny was the catalyst that set everything in motion." Lucy nodded, thoughtful. "It's true. It's as if every challenge, every obstacle led me exactly where I needed to be. And you've transformed those challenges into something beautiful," Mike added. "Something that's changing lives." Mike's words resonated deeply with Lucy. Yes, the path had been difficult, but every step had led her to this moment, to this life full of purpose and love. The following months brought exciting new developments for the center. Lucy and her team began collaborating with universities and hospitals across the country, sharing their methods and results. The assistance dog training program for people with epilepsy that Lucy had developed was gaining international recognition. One day, Lucy received a call that left her breathless. It was from the World Health Organization. "Dr. Lucy," said the voice on the other end of the line, "we're organizing an international conference on innovative therapies for neurological conditions. We would like you to be our keynote speaker, to share your work on animal-assisted therapy." Lucy could hardly believe what she was hearing. It was an incredible opportunity to bring her message to a global audience, to inspire others to explore the healing power of the connection between humans and animals. "It would be an honor," she responded, her voice trembling with emotion. The weeks leading up to the conference were intense. Lucy worked tirelessly on her presentation, determined to capture the essence of what they had achieved at the center. She wanted the world to understand that animal-assisted therapy wasn't just a nice idea, but a powerful healing tool. The night before her flight to Geneva, Lucy sat on the porch of her house with Sunny by her side. She looked towards the forest, remembering that day that seemed so long ago, when she found an abandoned puppy, and her life changed forever. "We've come a long way, haven't we, Sunny?" she whispered, stroking the dog's ears. Sunny looked at her with eyes full of love and loyalty, as if he perfectly understood what Lucy was saying. At that moment, Lucy felt a deep peace. She knew that no matter what challenges might come, she had the strength to face them, because now she understood that every obstacle was an opportunity to grow, to learn, to help others. As the sun set over the forest, Lucy hugged Sunny, grateful for everything they had experienced together and excited about what the future might bring. Tomorrow she would fly to Geneva to share her message with the world, but for now, in this quiet moment, she simply enjoyed the company of her faithful friend and the peace they had found together. The journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty now led her to places she had never imagined. And Lucy was ready for every step of the way, with Sunny by her side and her heart full of love and purpose. The auditorium of the World Health Organization in Geneva was packed to capacity. Doctors, researchers, and health professionals from around the world had gathered to hear Dr. Lucy speak about her innovative work in animal-assisted therapy. Backstage, Lucy took deep breaths, trying to calm her nerves. Mike was by her side, holding her hand. "You'll do great," he assured her. "Just be yourself and tell your story." Lucy nodded, grateful for his support. She thought of Sunny, who had to stay at home, but whose presence she felt even thousands of miles away. When she was introduced, Lucy walked to the podium with a firm step. She looked at the audience and, for a moment, felt overwhelmed. But then she remembered why she was there, all the lives they had changed, and found her voice. 10 years ago, she began, I was a scared young woman who believed her epilepsy would define her life. Today I'm here to tell you how that very condition led me to discover the incredible healing power of the connection between humans and animals. As Lucy shared her story, from the encounter with Sunny in the forest to the creation of the New Paths Center, the audience listened attentively. She spoke of the challenges they had faced, the moments of doubt, but also of the triumphs of the lives transformed. What we have discovered, she said, is that animal-assisted therapy is not just another tool in our medical arsenal. It's a way to reconnect people with their own inner strength, to remind them that they are not alone in their struggle. Lucy shared data from her research, showing how interaction with animals could reduce stress, improve cognitive function in Alzheimer's patients, help children with autism develop social skills, and even reduce the frequency of epileptic seizures. But beyond the numbers and statistics, she continued, what really matters are the individual stories. The autistic child who spoke for the first time after connecting with one of our dogs. The veteran with PTSD who finally managed to sleep through the night after starting equine therapy. The elderly woman with Alzheimer's who remembered her granddaughter's name while petting one of our cats. As Lucy spoke, she noticed that many in the audience were visibly moved. She saw tears in the eyes of some, smiles of recognition in others. What we've created at New Paths is not just a therapy center, she concluded. It's a place of hope, of connection, of mutual healing between species. And I firmly believe that this approach has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach not only neurological conditions, but mental health and well-being in general. When Lucy finished her presentation, there was a moment of silence, and then the auditorium erupted in applause. The ovation lasted several minutes, with the audience rising to their feet to show their appreciation. In the days following the conference, Lucy was inundated with interview requests, collaboration proposals, and thank you messages from people around the world who had been inspired by her story. But amid all the commotion, Lucy longed to return home, to her center, to Sunny. When she finally returned, she was greeted by an enthusiastic welcoming committee. Her center team, patients, and of course Sunny, who couldn't stop jumping and barking with joy. That night, sitting on the porch of her house with Sunny at her feet and Mike by her side, Lucy reflected on the incredible journey her life had been. "You know," she said to Mike, "there was a time when I thought my epilepsy was a curse, but now I realize it was a gift. It led me to Sunny, to you, to this incredible purpose." Mike smiled, hugging her. "You've always had the ability to transform challenges into opportunities, Lucy. That's what makes you special." Lucy stroked Sunny, thoughtful. "I think we all have that ability. Sometimes we just need a little help to discover it, and that's what I want to do with New Paths. Help people rediscover their own strength, their own inner light." The following months brought exciting new developments. Inspired by Lucy's presentation, several countries began implementing pilot animal-assisted therapy programs in their health systems. Lucy and her team found themselves traveling the world, sharing their experience and helping to establish new centers. The New Paths Center expanded, adding a research and training program for health professionals interested in animal-assisted therapy. Lucy proudly watched as her vision multiplied, reaching more and more people in need. One day, as she walked through the center's grounds, Lucy stopped at a small memorial they had built. It was a bronze statue of a dog, modeled after Sunny, with a plaque that read, "In honor of all the animals that help us heal, and the people who have the courage to open themselves to that connection." As she looked at the statue, Lucy felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Ellen, her mother, who had come to visit the center. "I'm so proud of you, my girl," Ellen said with tears in her eyes. "You've created something truly beautiful here." Lucy hugged her mother, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Mom, for always believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." That night, Lucy had a dream. She saw herself as a young woman, scared and alone in the forest. But then, from among the trees, Sunny emerged. The dog approached her, offering comfort and companionship. And behind Sunny, she saw all the people whose lives she had touched. Patients, colleagues, friends, all smiling, all connected by an invisible thread of love and healing. When Lucy woke up, she felt renewed, full of energy and purpose. She looked at Sunny, who was sleeping peacefully beside her, and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, gently stroking the dog, "for everything." In the years that followed, Lucy continued her work, always looking for new ways to expand the reach of animal-assisted therapy. She watched as the idea that had been born from her own struggle with epilepsy became a global movement, touching countless lives. And through it all, Sunny remained by her side, a constant reminder of the power of love, connection, and resilience. Lucy knew her journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new lives to touch, but she no longer feared the future. because now she understood that every obstacle was an opportunity to grow, to learn, to help. As the sun set over the New Paths Center, Lucy looked towards the forest where it had all begun. She smiled, feeling a deep peace and gratitude. She had found her path, her purpose, and in the process she had helped countless others find theirs. The journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty had become a beautiful odyssey of healing and hope. And Lucy knew that, with Sunny by her side and love in her heart, she was ready for any adventure the future might bring. Because in the end, that's what life is, a series of new paths waiting to be explored. And Lucy was ready to walk them all one step at a time, with gratitude, love, and the unwavering determination to make the world a better place, one healed heart at a time.